There is a loyalty with a capital L, and that's the warm and fuzzy feeling that you experience when you think about the brand that you're actually loyal to. And then there is loyalty with a small L, which is loyalty programs, that app on your phone or the something on your keychain that you scan when you get out, check out at the grocery store. So there are two different levels of loyalty, and in an ideal world, you want to win at both of them.
Olga, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I have a lot of questions for you. I want to first hear more about your journey, how you kind of started in the industry. I see that you've worked at some amazing brands at Yum and then TGI Fridays, and now you're running your own consultancy helping brands with loyalty. So how did you get into this crazy business?
Oh, how did I get into this crazy business? It was not a typical path. So restaurant space is my second career. Consulting in the restaurant space is my third career. My first career was actually in oil and gas. So I started out as a lawyer for ConocoPhillips, a US oil and gas company back in Moscow, long, long time ago. And it didn't take me too long to figure out that pipelines are not exactly my dream destination career wise. I was always much more interested in food than in oil. And so after graduating from Harvard Business School, I was looking for consumer focused businesses to join. Restaurants appeared on the horizon. Yum Brands picked me up for a leadership development program. I was very happy with that. And that's how it happened. So it was been over 20 years now.
That was around the time, Yum Brands was expanding its portfolio. I know Yum has had an amazing kind of journey and along the way has acquired some amazing brands. I've also heard that the Yum Brands and the RBIs of the world do a really good job with their development programs. So a lot of guests I've had on the show have been in one of those two programs and have kind of developed over the years. And when you were at Yum Brands, what were the different types of roles or different types of teams that you were on that gave you like a good sense of the restaurant industry?
Yeah, I was a part of probably one of the first official leadership development programs. I did not stay there long enough to actually get the full benefit of it. So I did a supply chain rotation, a marketing rotation, and I was just about to start an operations rotation when I ended up leaving the company. And part of it was when I moved to Texas a couple years in, I met my then boyfriend and now husband of almost 20 years. And he was really not into international moves and relocations. His job was very domestic. So I had to, because I was hired with Yum Restaurants International, I kind of had to roll off what was expected and fell out of that path. But the program was amazing, and quite a few people went through it. A lot of people graduated to become CMOs, CEOs of individual business units. And just as you look at Yum alumni across the industry, there are so many great people that grew up in Yum Brands that are everywhere across the industry these days.
And how did you get into, so afterwards you went to, there was a couple of other steps in between. How did you get into TGI Fridays and what were some of your roles there and how did you evolve over the years within that organization?
So Fridays was Fridays role. It was a good fit for me at the time because I still wanted to be international, but I did not want to relocate. And that's what Fridays was able to offer. So I could stay in Dallas and travel internationally, which I always loved to do. But at the same time, they did not want me to move to Europe, Asia, Russia, or whatever it was. So that was really good. So I stayed with Fridays for probably about 8-9 years, and almost exclusively marketing roles, a couple of secondments. So I ended up spending almost 6 months in Taiwan at one point, a few months in the UK. So there were like really fun short-term assignments along the way. But I basically got to cover the majority of the world for TGI Fridays, which back then had and still has a pretty significant international presence. It's kind of like a shame that the brand is collapsing domestically, but internationally it's still going strong. So I absolutely loved it. And the fun part of being in the international world as a marketer is you get to do a lot of different things. In the US, people tend to specialize. Like right now, I'm specialized just in loyalty. I don't really touch anything else. I don't even touch paid media or
Yep.
any advertising. It's just loyalty and CRM. When you're in the international space, you just by nature of not having so many people on the team, you touch everything. You touch loyalty, you touch culinary, you touch marketing and media, you touch development. It's everything. So that was very, very fun to do.
Give me a sense of what TGI Fridays was up to during those years where they were expanding out into international markets. At the time, they had a very strong domestic growth and in a way have become a household name. Tell me about what was that? What were some of the challenges of doing marketing in different regions? And at that time, what was TGI Fridays kind of like position in the market? Was it like a new entrance in these international spaces? Were they just testing the waters, or did they have this really strong
Oh
brand
no,
ethos
no.
that was easy for them to carry forward?
At the time when I joined, like I think it was 2009, maybe 2008, 2009. At the time, Fridays had a very strong international presence. The brand was extremely well known. There were probably close to 300 international locations, which was substantially less than domestic locations, but it was a very big part of the business. So Fridays had a name. The challenge that our team was dealing with at the time was how do you grow the brand internationally when you have a collection of flagship stores, typically either in the capitals or in the tourist
Right,
locations. We
right.
were working on trying to make Fridays more of a household name across all of those international destinations. So it
Mm,
was for a lot of brands, it was a little bit like you go there for your birthday, you go there to feel like you suddenly visited New York when you're actually in Guatemala, somewhere sitting in Antigua and trying to imagine that you want on a trip to Manhattan.
wow.
So it was a special occasion destination for a lot of guests around the world, and we were doing our best to make it more local, more everyday experience because you can't build a substantial multi-unit brand locally when people don't visit it more often than once a year for a birthday or July 4th or whatever.
Absolutely. And you brought up Antigua. I actually had the chance to go to Guatemala and had a
Well,
chance to check out some of the McDonald's. We were doing a project with McDonald's in Central America, and one of the key unlocks for me was that around the world, some of these brands are seen as luxury kind of destinations, and it's seen like as a special occasion. If you know the McDonald's in Antigua, it's the most beautiful McDonald's like in the world. And it was spectacular to see. And I learned from that is that it takes a really strong franchising group that kind of runs the show and is very strong and is able to kind of tailor that product to that specific region. So I love that. Let's talk about loyalty. Let's find a good segue here. How did you kind of specialize in loyalty? You mentioned at the beginning you were getting a chance to do a little bit of everything and you got a chance to kind of add different tools to your toolkit. What made you decide to focus on loyalty? Was there just like an aha moment or did you see a need in the market? What made you decide that this is what I want to focus on?
yeah, the reason that I focused on loyalty was that there was demand for it, right? When you start out as an individual consultant, you always have to decide what exactly you're going to do. If you don't specialize, it's very hard to pitch your services. So I played with a couple of different ideas of what I thought there was demand on the market for, and among them, loyalty marketing, and initially loyalty analytics was something that I thought would fit with my network and should have substantial demand for. And out of 3 or 4 ideas that I was exploring early on in my solo consulting career, loyalty just took off faster than anything else. So that's how I ended up picking it as a destination. And so don't have any regrets so far. It's been working really well. There is continues to be strong demand on loyalty support, segmentation, um, loyalty first party marketing. So all of that continues to generate strong demand among the marketplace. So I'm playing with it.
When a brand comes to you, what are some of the challenges that they're facing that says, "Hey, I need Olga here. I need Olga's help to develop my
Yeah.
loyalty program."
So the most common thing that appears on the radar is my loyalty program is not working, or I don't think my loyalty program is working. So That can come from so many different directions. It can be that guests are in the loyalty program are not coming into the restaurant. So you have very low participation on the loyalty program. Sometimes it's, well, they all show up, but they spend less or visit less frequently than non loyalty guests. Sometimes while they're showing up, they're spending more, they're visiting more, but we're spending so much money on offers and discounts, we don't think the ROI is positive. Sometimes it's all working, but it's just so complicated. It's so hard to run. There are so many issues with offers not deploying correctly, guest complaints. So that's kind of like the range of things that happens. It is relatively rare for us to have a brand come in that says, we want to launch a loyalty program. Can you help us?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often because people tend, unless they've launched a loyalty program somewhere else before, when they do it
Right.
truly for the first time for themselves, they think like, how hard can it be? We can just do it ourselves. And the providers tell them this is super easy. So we don't get as much of that. I think we should be, but when people want to do it, DIY it, and they think it's going to be easier, who am I to interject?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Help me level set here. When you define loyalty, there's so many different elements that go into loyalty, right? I remember in our first conversation, you mentioned that most of the time loyalty is more of a communication channel, really, than anything else. So you have like your SMS, you have your email campaigns, you have the analytics behind your customer data. Help me understand, like in this esoteric kind of like definition of loyalty, what are the different components that brands need to be thinking about? And then to add to that, what is like a full encompassing loyalty program from your point of view? What needs to be there in order for it to kind of like work well?
Yeah, so there is a loyalty with a capital L, and that's the warm and fuzzy feeling that you experience when you think about the brand that you're actually loyal to. And then there's loyalty with a small L, which is loyalty programs that app on your phone or they something on your keychain that you scan when you get out, you check out at the grocery store. So there are two different levels of loyalty, and in an ideal world, you want to win at both of them. So, and that's not easy, especially when the brand is small or medium sized, and when your marketing budgets are limited or the vision of the brand is also limited. What we tend to focus on at Restaurant Loyalty Specialists is loyalty with a small L.
Okay.
And we work with the capital L as well. However, that tends to fall more into the space of brand marketers, and that's typically really owned by the brand itself. So the work that we do focuses on the little L, and it's very transactional in nature. It's trying to get people to come in a little bit more and spend just a little bit more. What I do love about it is that while it is transactional, it's also highly measurable because the warm and fuzzy feelings are very hard to measure the impact of them. We know they work, right? When we know that they generate incremental sales, they generate top of mind awareness and so on, but it is very hard to do attribution on those. The work that we do on the little L transactional activities, those are very easy to attribute. So we can say, hey, we did this campaign and you got this much ROI out of this campaign. If you do this many of those, you're going to get this much ROI, and we can see how all of it is performing. So we tend to play more in the little L space, and sometimes we play with a big one too. We can contribute to it, but we don't drive it.
That's actually a really good differentiation. There is like the little L and a big L. I'm going to use that from now on. I did a small campaign with a brand that we work with, and they have something like 12,000 members on their 5-star as an example, and they never use it. So they have this database of people and they never send out promotions. They just accumulated it over the years. And we thought, okay, we need to collect some data for a project that we were running. Let's send out like a free hot dog code for their loyalty program. And then we sent it out, and then I was looking at the analytics. How many of them were actually, out of the 12,000 people we sent it out, how many opened up that SMS campaign or in-app campaign? It was very, very small. And then I also then measured how many of them actually came to the store and then showed me that they received the text. And that was an even smaller percentage, right? Like something like out of 12,000 people, the conversion rate was maybe around 12 people. And we were giving away free food. So I noticed in that moment that it's maybe for smaller brands, they're not tapping into the full potential of the little L, and then not even measuring the, the ROI of those different campaigns. So my question to you is,
Yeah.
as a brand gets bigger, what are some of the different gates that they need to go through in order to graduate from, let's say, having the bare bones of like an SMS campaign to doing email marketing? What are the different kind of levers that you want to pull along the way?
I don't know if there are specific levers that I haven't thought about on that in that way. I think that you need to add marketing channels as you go, so you can reach guests across different spaces. So push notifications if you have an app is one of the most affordable because generally it doesn't cost you anything apart from app maintenance to run those
Mm-hmm.
push notifications. But people also tend to unsubscribe, right? So it depends on what your audience looks like and how you use them. Similarly with SMS, SMS you tend to have high engagement up front and high unsubscribe rates. Emails tend to have lower unsubscribe rates, but you have to get the share of attention. It's a little tricky. Got to get your subject lines right. Got to make sure your deliverability of your email is in the right place. So that's all. I would say it doesn't cost you anything. You got to have somebody who knows what they're doing, and you got to hire somebody to help you make sure your emails don't land directly into spam or trash or whatever. Nobody will see them. So I don't know if there's a clear recipe. What I do know is that it's mission critical to grow the database. And once that database reaches a sizable level of engaged active users, you just need to start somewhere and test it and see, make sure that there is impact. Um, so I would say like 12,000 users is a small database. If it's a
Wow.
single store, it's probably okay. Yeah, it is
That's a
small.
single store.
Single 12,000 active for a single store is not bad. So that's not a bad number. But basically, once you start getting closer to like 50,000, 100,000 users in the database, that's when it's worth it to start playing with it because you can start having an impact. With 12,000 users, just conversion rates, engagement rate is like if you get 5% engagement, that's wonderful. Conversion rate, if you get 1% conversion rate, it's like almost a miracle. And 0.5% conversion rate is not bad. And then if you are honest about it, you have to think about the attribution, right? Because there is redemption on that free
Mm.
hot dog, and then there is a number of people that received the message about the free hot dog, but then showed up and didn't get the free hot dog. If the brand sells more than just hot dogs, the hot dog may have jotted their memory. I have to go to this place, but then they show up and get a burger instead, or mac and cheese, or whatever, right? So, how much do you attribute to that campaign in terms of bringing guests in? Because it's not just redemptions, right? It's people that visited after receiving the message that you have attribute the impact to. So yeah, over time you put measurements in to make sure you have reasonable attribution, that you monitor not just redemptions but the overall impact of the campaigns, and that you focus on the channels that produce the best results.
Yeah.
It's
So
all it's
you
all
alluded.
work. It's all work, right?
Yeah, it is.
uh,
It is. There's no like workaround. You just have to do a lot of A/B testing, and you have to follow good principles. It's similar to what I do in my day-to-day role with sending out even just like a cold email. The generic cold email is not going to go anywhere unless you have it super personalized. And it's difficult to super personalize everything because you only have 24 hours in a day. So I definitely can empathize with some of those challenges. Help me
yeah.
understand, like, there's tons of platforms, right? I go to a trade show and I see dozens of different loyalty providers, loyalty vendors. Without kind of naming names or your favorite providers, maybe kind of help me understand, or for a brand that's watching, how they can make the decision of figuring out which loyalty provider to go with. Or is it all just commoditized and it's pretty much just whoever is the cheapest?
It's not commoditized. It's definitely not commoditized. Platforms generally on paper have very similar functionality, and it's been shocking to me to see the new entrants coming in with features that long-standing players have had for years and were differentiated on. But it looks like coding new stuff is no longer a big deal these days.
Yeah, you just vibe code. You just vibe code.
Yeah, so it's getting the features in is not it doesn't seem to be all that difficult. Where the rubber meets the road is how well does it actually work in practice? How well is it thought through? What is the quality of your UI? And most importantly, is the integrations with your point of sale. So
Absolutely.
so the first filter is the scale of the brand, right? If you're a 10 unit chain, I will give you different recommendations than if you're a 500 unit chain. And even if the functionality of the platform should be fairly similar between those, there are components that are important in terms of how do you manage a truly multi-unit operation, what kind of reporting you need, what kind of access you need, how many people will have their hands in that particular cookie jar.
I
so
see.
so you want to be able to manage all of that for a larger brand. And when you're looking at a 5, 10, 15 unit brand where you basically have just one marketing manager and you don't have 7 people in the agency handling the account,
Mhm.
you don't need that level of access, and you don't need specific access for franchisees. You don't need specific access for the directors of operations or regional VPs. So the scale, right? So that's step one. How big is the brand that is out there shopping? The second is what are the resources they're planning to allocate to the program? Are they thinking set it and forget it? Are they going to
Mm.
actively manage the program? Because, you can take either approach. You're going to get different results, but how are you planning to run it? And then the next one that is critically important, integration with your point of sale or with your marketing automation platform if you have one separately. If the loyalty platform does not work well with your point of sale, it's going to be horrible. Like you don't want to be there. So that's the most important piece.
So the challenge then from the integration point of view from the POS and the loyalty platform is being able to kind of attribute or at least tag that person coming in and seeing like what are the items on like a PLU level that
Yeah,
these people are purchasing. Is
yeah.
help me understand that a little bit more.
So that is one piece. The piece that we run into most frequently is the ability to configure offers on the loyalty platform that are correctly interpreted and processed by the point of sale system. So being able to do it quickly, easily, and without ridiculous amounts of testing. So figuring out why on earth does it always you put on the conditions discount one coffee, and then when you get to the point of sale, it continues to discount no matter how many identical coffees, and you can't figure out why. So you don't want to be dealing with that kind of stuff. Or you don't want to be stuck in a situation where, particularly for brands that have a lot of modifications, that modifiers create a bunch of drama. So if you say, hey, free mocha, I keep on thinking of coffee because that's more frequently happens with beverage brands. You go out and say free mocha, and then if God forbid somebody adds skim milk instead of regular milk into their mocha, suddenly everything doesn't work and you don't find out until you launch. That's not fun. So you really
Okay.
want to be able
Okay.
to have that working correctly, right?
I see.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So and
That makes
obviously
a lot of
reporting.
sense.
Yeah, you want reporting to match. Like you don't want your loyalty platform to tell you you had $10 million in sales when your point of sale says you had 11. So those kind of things are kind of useful because you got to pick your source of truth, and you want your various platforms and tools to be more or less aligned, like within a couple percent to be aligned on what they think the number is. Never going to be perfect. So that's the kind of stuff that
As
we
we
like.
start peeling back the onion, I'm starting to see, as we're peeling back the onion, I'm starting to see actually it does get a little bit more difficult, especially once you start drilling deep into the functionality. One little mistake, I know that I had, this is more on like the type of offer that I submitted, but we had a free hot dog. And in the way that I had my terms of conditions, people were kind of exploiting it. So even thinking at the offer level, like how do you configure it so that people understand what it is and they don't try to argue with the staff and slow down the line? That is important. And then on the POS level, making sure all the modifiers are correct and everything is getting injected correctly. And then it's when you're looking at the data, making sure that it's a apples to apples comparison. It doesn't confuse the person who's looking at that data. And then an even higher level of complexity is then when you start to try to configure different permissions and different views for different stakeholders. So I can see as you start to think about this more and more, You might need to talk to Olga to
It's not
figure out all the.
not straightforward even for us, like, when it's a new combination of point of sale, and don't forget that often online ordering exists in a different universe as well, because sometimes brands use online ordering that is a part of their point of sale system, but often it's a third
Right.
party, like Polo being the most common, most famous. It's not very unified.
Right.
Sometimes your offers that work perfectly fine on the point of sale don't work as well when you push them through the online ordering channel, and you gotta test it across multiple channels. Or God forbid, different franchisees have different point of sales, so that happens too.
That's right.
So
Very common.
yep. So there's a lot of variation out there to play with.
And help me understand. Let's imagine now I'm a multi-unit brand. Okay. I'm coming in. First question is, how many units do I need to have in order for me to best use your team and your services?
I think it's not so much about the units. It's more about how big is your database. I typically say that if you have less than, let's say, 100,000 active users on the database, you're probably not going to get the biggest bang for the buck if you're using us on a continued basis. We can come in with assessment or consultation, but we're probably a little too big to help continuously, because we just can't squeeze performance out of a small database, if you don't have a
That's
lot
right.
of people, because we add value by getting your users to come in a little bit more. If you only have a couple dozen users, sorry, just not gonna work. So generally we work with brands that are at 50 units on the up, typically, but there have been some exceptions. So
Absolutely.
sometimes you'll have smaller brands with a very large database, or they have very high transaction they ever check. So we work with a few fine dining brands where databases were not very large, but if the average check is over $200, yeah, we can push these people just a little bit. We can certainly give you a good ROI.
Makes sense. That's a good way to frame it. So then now, okay, so we're talking to you. We fit your criteria. We have tons of users that we haven't been able to get the full ROI on. Then what comes next? There's a consultation where you kind of sit down with us and take a look at what we're currently doing, and what comes next.
So if our typical process with new clients is we do a discovery process, which we call the context discussion. So we'll sit down with you, and usually, we don't start out by asking how many users do you have. It's not worth it. We'll have a conversation anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So we sit down with you and we ask a series of questions about, what's going on in your world as it relates to loyalty. So we take a potential client through a series of structured questions about their needs, their expectations, their goals. And we cover things like who's involved. We cover things such as what does your budget look like? So what are you expecting from the project? Personally, professionally, what's the impact of the project that you expect to see? So we take the clients through this process, we document what they've shared with us, and that helps us shape an understanding of what this project might look like. And then from there, we'll move on to a proposal, which is custom for every single client. They are not cookie cutter proposals. We make sure that we meet the needs of whoever came to us with a request. Very often, there's a loyalty baseline assessment. So the client will have loyalty program in place. We will prepare our assessment of how it is performing. So it's a fairly long, comprehensive checklist. We look at the customer-facing side. We look at the back end. We interview all the stakeholders within the organization. We have multiple people on multiple devices download the program and try to use the program and see what their mailbox looks like after they've done that. How easy was it to redeem the offer? And so we present a comprehensive assessment of what's happening, and usually a recommendation flows from there. But not necessarily. Some clients come in and they say, hey, we know we don't need an assessment. We know that our welcome journey is bad. Can you fix my welcome journey? I'm like, okay, fine. We'll do that.
Amazing. And then after we did the assessment and we get started, do you typically you mentioned earlier it depends on what the customer or what the client is looking for, but do you then work with them on like an agency basis where you're kind of managing those loyalties and doing those campaigns for them, or is it more so you kind of set up the framework and let them run with it?
It depends on what they're looking for. So there is no standard model. It's really we adjust to what the client needs. For some clients, we will help them set up the process and we'll train their folks, in-house folks, on how to use it. Or sometimes they're creative agency if they are in charge of deploying campaigns. So sometimes it's a short-term project. It's 3, 4, or 5 months, and we're in and out. And sometimes we continue deploying on behalf of the client continuously. So we become their execution arm, and we usually work with their creative agents. So we don't do creative ourselves, always their in-house creative, because most everything has either copywriting or creative, so it's always part of the deal, right? So you have to use that as a part of campaign deployment. So for some clients, we'll continue with just campaign deployment, and for other clients, we'll provide ongoing strategic support. So we will sit in on their quarterly reviews with their platform, customer service, customer success managers. We will look on a monthly, or quarterly, or even annual basis. Is the program still performing? We'll redo the assessment on an annual basis, and we'll just provide recommendations and give ideas on what else to do, how to make it more fun, add challenges, add games, increase program visibility through social. So we'll work with all that.
It's much as a journey of trying to improve the little L as it is a journey of trying to improve the way that the brand kind of approaches this aspect of the business. And I'm sure along the way, there is so much transferable knowledge, whether it's working on the little L helps unlock a new way of measuring ROI on the big L. And then also just making sure that all the data kind of feeds through all the systems. And it's such a complicated journey. I learned a ton. I'm sure that my audience is probably getting their wheels spinning in their minds, thinking of ways to improve. Let's close this off by maybe giving your take on where do you see, this is a broad question, so you can take this any way you want. Where do you see the future of loyalty for brands? Is there a new trend that you're seeing that people are just starting to play around with? Or is it more so about trying to connect all the data together, making sure that everything flows on the integration level? Where do you see the biggest opportunities in the future in this space?
That's a good question. I think on the brand side, the biggest opportunities that I see is improvement of loyalty software and better quality of engagement software associated with loyalty. So loyalty programs, even the simple ones, are pretty hard to run. And people in this environment have limited attention span, and I'm talking about employees. And getting the
Sure.
team members to learn how to use those programs and to use them correctly is a challenge. So I think
Sure.
the loyalty software that has the best UI is probably going to start winning pretty quickly. So
Okay.
that's one trend that I would love to see. And on the consumer side, I don't have a good prediction. I know attention spans are shrinking, and it's
Yes.
harder and harder to keep people engaged. And that's why I know that loyalty and the ability to bring the guest back over and over again is going to become more and more important, because there is less exploration happening
Right.
because of the overwhelm, and there is more
Right.
return to familiarity that I'm observing in the market.
That's true.
I don't have studies to prove it.
Yeah.
So as a brand, you want to fall into that loop where on the drive home, or as you leave your computer at the end of the day, you just want to be in a place where somebody's like, gosh, I don't want to look which other Japanese places are around here. I'm just going to go to my usual one. You want to be that one. Like, I feel
Got it.
like sushi, that's the place I'm going to go to. So
I
you want
love
to
it.
try to be that place.
I love it. That's amazing. And the big L and I'm using this analogy because I like it. The big L and the little L need to come together, right? Because if your food isn't good and
Yeah.
if the brand ethos isn't strong, then it doesn't really matter what you do on the little L. It's probably not going to go too well.
At the end of the day, like little L, the loyalty programs, they do not create loyalty. They support
Right.
loyalty. They do not create it. The only way to create loyalty is by having excellent quality of operations, excellent quality
Yep.
of food, clean restaurants, on-time delivery, all of that good stuff. Loyalty program is a supporting play in creating big loyalty. It's a very important one, but it's a supporting actor. So it's important not to forget that.
Excellent. Olga, thank you so much. For my audience that's listening, I'm going to have all of your links down below that they can reach out to you. Is there a preferred means of communication? Just go on your website and book a meeting. How would you like people to reach you?
I'm very easy to reach. So it's Olga at restaurantloyaltyspecialists.com. It's a mouthful, but restaurantloyaltyspecialists.com. I respond to all inbound messages on LinkedIn. You can fill out a contact form on my website. So I'm really, really easy to find. So please reach out. I'd love to talk to you, even if you have a small brand.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Olga, for joining us.
It was fun.
My pleasure. Take care.